introduction, so I'll just start.
You got it.
Welcome to Oh Brother, Not Another Podcast, an official Apple podcast sponsored by the Westport Library and Quick Center for the Arts. And I am Miggs Burrows.
And I am Trace Burrows. And if you like the show, please leave a nice review. Today we have on the show Chuck Wright, who is the bass player for Quiet Riot for 26 years with 9 albums. They had a hit album and record, Come and Feel the Noise. It was huge. I remember that, hearing that all the time. And he's also played with Alice Cooper, Slash, Gregg Allman, Carmine Appice, Ronnie Montrose, John Wade, and Pat Travers, and many others. He has a solo album out, and we're going to talk about that today. So Chuck, how many?
Hey, hello, everybody. Hi. Nice to meet you, oh brothers. When I was told this got changed, I went, oh brother. Anyway,
That's the thing, yeah. That's what everyone says after they do it, too. They go,
oh brother.
why did I do that?
Yeah, why did I do this? I've never done an interview with 2 people, but I'll try to keep up with you guys.
Before we get into your solo album,
Yeah.
So I think there's like minor connections I have with you.
Okay.
Montrose, so you played with them for a while?
With Ronnie, yeah. In I think 1999 and 2000, I was playing with Ronnie, and Eric Singer from Kiss was the drummer at one time, and so was Pat Torpey. Yeah, that era. And then I got the Alice Cooper gig, so I bowed out of that and actually turned Ronnie on to Ricky Phillips, who's now been with Styx forever.
So
he was my roommate at the time.
Glenn played with the Montrose, so maybe it was before you were.
Yeah, no, he wasn't in the version I was in. No.
Yeah, okay. So there goes that one.
But you know what? I love the music.
Yeah.
When that first Montrose record was one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah, I like that.
It's still a top 10, and I still think it's some of Sammy Hagar's best work.
Yeah, same here.
And it's definitely a top 10 rock record on my list.
I tried out for Alice Cooper, but didn't get in as a drummer. I sing now.
Oh, okay.
Also, one of my other things. So I was, after Carmine Appice left the Leslie West band, I was the next drummer.
Uh-huh. I never knew Carmine played with Leslie.
Pardon?
I didn't realize Carmine had his. I know it's his.
Yeah, after I guess he had Corky Lang, but Corky Lang left, and then Carmine Appice, and I guess they couldn't call it Mountain because Carmine Appice owns part of the name, and then me.
Okay.
For a
and
minute.
then we had John Wade on the show just recently.
Oh, yeah, you played with John Wade. Hmm.
I did a track with him that was involved with the Mr. Big record. I never was in his band, but he's just one of the many people I've been fortunate enough to work with, like Gregg Allman and different people. But with Alice Cooper, I actually did 75 cities in 17 countries.
Wow.
We started in Moscow and ended in Lisbon and went all through Europe, and we did 9 shows in a row in England. In the UK, I mean, not England, but UK. And it was a highlight of my career, really, is being a part of that production.
What is Sick Boy? You have that on your shirt.
Oh, Sick Boy. My friend Doug Cernley is a sponsor of my event, Ultimate Jam Night, that happens every other Tuesday now at the Whiskey. And I started that in 2015. And he's always been very cool in giving us T-shirt swag and wristbands and things like that for my event to help out everything. So that's where that comes from.
Right. So your solo album, How Long Sheltering Sky on Cleopatra Records. I'm sure people can find that at all the major.
May 20th it comes out, right?
It's actually on you can go there now and pre-order it or whatever. I know some friends of mine that actually pre-ordered it and got it already. But yeah, the actual release date official is the 20th. And I've released 2 videos. I released one some months ago, my cover of Bjork's Army of Me. which actually features 3D animation of Ruth Ginsburg's Marching on Washington. And one of the messages at the end of it is my body, my choice, which is like so amazing for right now.
Yeah.
And the new video that I released, the lyric was written by Joe Retta, who sang with Sweet and Dio Disciples. And he wrote it before the end of the year. And it's an anti-war song. And which, you know, now with the Russian invasion, the timing, when I did the video, obviously I tied in some of that to the video. But that was all done before this whole conflict happened. It's called Throwing Stones. Everybody should check it out. It's pretty.
Throwing Stones. Yeah, great video.
It's a pretty wicked video. And one reviewer compared the song to if Primus and Stevie Wonder got together. You can imagine that. So it's a pretty unique thing, but it has a 70s soulfulness to it.
Yeah, I really liked Army of Me. I thought it was really powerful. And that woman lady you have singing with you.
That's Whitney Ty. I discovered her as one of the singers at Ultimate Jam Night, and I thought she'd be the perfect voice for Army of Me. Army of Me, the music, bed music, was recorded earlier with my late friend Pat Torpey and Lanny Cordola, who was in House of Lords. And I found the track and I go, this needs to be finished. And I thought her voice was the perfect voice for it. She's got an outstanding album out called Apogee. And our relationship grew from that. And we ended up writing a song together on my album. And she also sings one of my favorite songs on the album called Giving Up the Ghost.
Yeah. Is she the face?
She's on three songs. Pardon?
Is that her in the video? There's a face of her.
That's her singing.
Great looking, yeah.
The video. Yeah. She's super talented, amazing songwriter, and I'm honored that she came on board along with the other 41 people. Actually, I did a recount. I missed somebody. There's actually 41 friends and guest performers on my album, which you're as good as the people you surround yourself with.
Sure. Yeah.
I wrote the music mainly on acoustic guitar, and then built the songs from there. One song I wrote on bass, it's an instrumental called Farewell Horizon, which was compared to an Eric Johnson song, but by somebody. But that's the only one that actually started with the bass as the main bed for writing the song. The others were me sitting down with an acoustic guitar. One of the songs called See You on the Other Side, I got a phone call that Frankie Benelli had passed, who I'd been working with since '81 and a very close friend. And I sat right down and wrote that song in one sitting from beginning to end. I came up with the chorus melody and idea. And then I finished it out with a singer that he had been working with recently named August Young.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing the point is that I never really planned on doing a solo album. It just kind of came out organically with the pandemic. I took a bad situation and tried to make something good out of it. And I just started writing music that I want to listen to, as opposed to having, I've got to write 10 hard rock tunes that are got to sound like this. It was just like writing music that I like. That's why there's so many different styles on the album, even Celtic on the album. There's funk.
Bjork, is that how you pronounce that? The Bjork song. Yeah. Like, how did you just heard that and said, that's a good cover of that?
We were in the studio writing some songs, and then we all just started jamming on it because we were fans of Bjork, and that song was a big hit for her in 1995. And it just has a great feel. It's like she sampled John Bonham's from Led Zeppelin's drum part, and so we just started jamming on that. And Pat Torpey had actually toured with Robert Plant. So, of course, he's going to play that kind of thing. He'd play anything fantastic. But so it just kind of happened. And I found the tracks. And I said, I got to finish this. And there's another song, too. Throwing Stones actually was a track, song idea that we'd cut. And it became that.
Yeah, like that, too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's how, you can't get any better. And I miss Pat a lot. He was one of my best friends.
You directed the video, didn't you? Army of Me?
Yes, I did. I oversaw everything with both videos, actually. But I started working with a 3D animator friend of mine named Drew Lanius. He's up in Kentucky, Ohio area. And I saw a video of his, and I go, oh, wow, it'd be really great. Why don't we get together and we'll do this thing and the Army's going to be Ruth Ginsburg's because she's just passed. And the idea is that even though she's gone, there's still so many people that still believe in her beliefs and what she stood for in this country, even though things have really changed a lot with the Supreme Court. It just really spoke to me in that I thought she'd be the perfect Army to have video.
Yeah, it almost has a Metropolis feel to it when they're all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going for that futuristic sci-fi.
Yeah.
Which is that's the genre I love the most in pretty much anything. You know, in fact, the first thing I wrote was called "The Weight of Silence," which actually just won 2 awards. The Rock Music Alliance. It was voted best guitar instrumental over God, I can't remember the whole John Five and Joe Satriani. But anyway, it won best guitar instrumental and best video. And that video I actually did myself. That song, I sat down when the pandemic hit and everything was like apocalyptic across the world. Empty streets everywhere. So I found cool drone footage of just places that are usually packed with people like New York City. Nobody, right? And then I just filmed myself with an iPhone. Actually, my girlfriend filmed me, and then I edited it together, and it just won an award for best video, which is crazy to me, but totally a surprise. But that's how the whole thing kind of started. So that song came out. I put that out on video, and then Troy Lucetta, the drummer from Tesla, called me, and he goes, "Man, I love that song. Can I play drums on it?" I go, "I never thought about it. Really? I never thought about it." I go, "Sure." So he has a studio, and I sent him the tracks to play to, and he sent me the drum track back, and it was killer. And at the same time, a guitar player I know in town, who's a top jazz fusion guy named Alan Hines, wanted to play on it too. So he added some just beautiful guitar work that I edited together to make a theme. And so now there's 2 versions of the song. It's, the one that won the award is the reimagined version, which is this version. The first version was just me playing everything. And then, so the whole album thing kind of developed that way. It's just started writing songs. It's asking friends, "Hey, what do you think of this? Do you want to throw some lap steel guitar on it? Let's do it like Pink Floyd," whatever, right? And it just started happening. Eventually, I had 5 songs and that video, Army of Me, and I said, "You know what? I think I got something here." And I took it around, and my friend Brian Pereira over at Cleopatra totally was on board. And no, I have no reins with this label. It's like I can do whatever, and they're totally support it. Where other labels like to meddle into everything you do. "Oh no, you can't do that kind of thing," whatever. But with this album, it's all over the map, and it's kind of like tells a story. It's very cinematic.
So is the group, is it just a Chuck Wright album, or is there a group?
Well, I call it's called Chuck Wright's Sheltering Sky.
Okay.
And that's because there are so many musicians on it. And I've always kind of felt in running my event where I coordinate between 50 and 100 professional musicians, and it was weekly. I've always felt like an umbrella over people and getting everybody gathered together. You know, people have formed bands, people have gotten tours just by it being a social scene, a big social scene. And I started it because DJs were taking over Los Angeles, and DJs can't jam. Right? So let's do a jam. And I've been able to put people together. Here's a good example. I put together Gregg Wright, who was a guitar player with Michael Jackson on the Thriller tour, and Sugarfoot Moffett, who was the drummer on the Thriller tour. And they hadn't played together since then. And I got a hold of both of them and go, "Hey, why don't you guys come down and we'll do something?" And got to see them play together again, which was amazing, you know, things like that.
Yeah, that's a great way to find talent with that Whiskey A Go-Go thing.
It is. It's also really great to take seasoned pros and put young, great players with them. That's one of the joys I get, and to watch the growth of some of these players. I've watched one guy go from just starting out, and now he's on tour with Dorothy, and he plays with Faster Pussycat, and he was just like a young guy just trying to get in there, and he made connections, and people got to see him, and so it's been a great thing for the music community here in LA. And we actually just did a benefit for Ukraine, for the World Central Kitchen, and raised a bunch of money for them. So we also use it as a platform to help people too. We've done a homeless benefit here too, and a bunch of other ones over the course of the years that we've been doing this.
So I'm curious. After I'm not a musician, but I'm listened to Quiet Riot and aware of the music. But what's it like being with them for so long, and having that heavy metal mindset, and then is that just something you snap out of, or you're still like? Well,
that mindset, it happens to me when I get on stage for 90 minutes.
Oh.
And it's really not there otherwise. I mean, I listen to, I like AC/DC and rock bands. I grew up listening to Humble Pie and bands like that, but I really like artists like Sting as well too, and Sarah McLachlan, and really musical, adventurous music as well as just hard rocking. But mainly when I get on stage, it's a different animal. So you just yeah. I actually love doing it. It's fun, but what I listen to at home is not that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Because I always get this impression that heavy metal bands, like that's it. It's like a fanatical.
No, not at all. When
everything else sucks. It's us or the.
Yeah. When I started playing in Los Angeles, I had a prog band. When I was a kid, my friend was driving me because I didn't have a driver's license, and the sign at the whiskey said, yes, $5. And I went, I heard that band's really good. We should go check them out, right? And that totally turned my head around. That, oh my God, you can actually do that. So, and at that point, I was a Deep Purple, Black Sabbath kind of kid.
Oh yeah.
I totally got into all the prog bands, and it kind of stayed in my blood. And there's elements of that on my new album, which you'll hear. It's an adventure from beginning to end. Check it out.
Yeah. How did you get into? When did you start playing music?
I just had that discussion with a couple friends yesterday, and I didn't really realize it, but I think the first time I actually got into music, I was a little boy, and my mom gave me one of those little toy organs where the notes are written in numbers, and you play the chord with your left hand. And I think the first song I learned was like, what was it? House of the Rising Sun. Oh. And then stuff like that era music. And then I took some guitar lessons, and I became a bass player because when I was almost 15, the kids in my neighborhood were like 16 and 17, and I was a big kid. They didn't know how old I was. They go, hey, I saw you play guitar. Do you play guitar, right? And I go, well, kind of, a little bit. And they said, you want to play bass in our band? And I said, oh, bass? Isn't that just 4 strings? Right? I think I can handle that. Anyway, I asked my mom, and she was all about helping me get a bass. And what makes that interesting, getting into music that way, is it totally changed my life. I was in military school for almost 9 years.
What?
And I was second in command of the battalion.
Oh, my
God.
God.
I was going to go to the Air Force high school that set you up to go to the Air Force Academy. I wanted to be a pilot. That was my dream. Oh. And then I discovered rock and roll. I did my very first show, which was at a UCLA fraternity party, right? And I made $75. I drank beer, and the girls thought I was cute. So, right? So
I went to the Air Force.
So I went to my mom, and I said, I think I want to do this instead. And she was like, oh my God, you've invested 8 years. Obviously, she means she invested all this money, but in going to that school for the education and all that. But I just really felt my calling was that. And when I was a little boy, I remember having my tennis racket, playing to the shag carpets, and those were all the people. I was playing to the Beatles, like every other kid, right? Pretending, but I got to live that dream, and I've been very fortunate to play for crowds as big. I think the biggest one is 120,000 at Rocklahoma, and 55,000 in Europe and in Japan, and some big shows like that. Yeah. So that's kind of like I envisioned my future when I was a little kid, kind of, in a way,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
what an amazing transition.
So I read in your bio you were, I guess, when you started out, one of your influences was Jack Bruce.
Yeah, actually, I just did a post about that today because it's his birthday today, oddly enough. And what the anecdotal story about Jack Bruce is, that was the first band I started learning how to play bass. Sunshine of Your Love was the first song I ever learned. I actually got my mom to get me an EB3 bass like him. I mean, he was my idol. Well, cut to years later, I'm on tour with Carmine Appice and Vanilla Fudge, and the opening act's bass player inherited, his father was the CEO of Pfizer, and when he passed, he inherited $250 million. So he bought all this memorabilia, music instruments. He had Jimmy Page's amps, he had Tim Bogart's bass. He had the bass that I played, that I learned "Sunshine of Your Love" to at his house. So at the end of the tour, I was able to go to his little room that he had all this music gear and play the bass that I learned my first song on.
That's so cool.
We interviewed his daughters, but that's as close as we got.
Yeah,
Jack,
really
what an amazing talent. Huh?
One of his daughters, she calls herself Aruba Red. Her name's Natasha Bruce. Really talented singer. And his other daughter, Kyla Simone Bruce, who we also had on, is a filmmaker. So
I'm totally unaware of that.
Yeah, but they loved her. Yeah, Aruba Red's really an amazing singer. I think she sang. Well, I don't know if she did.
Going Wrong, that was on the first Cream album or second one.
Which song?
Really did it, and it's on YouTube somewhere.
Oh,
That's how I came across her. I didn't know he had any children, and then I'm watching videos, and I go, "Here's Natasha Aruba Red," and I went, "What? He has daughters?"
It's not mentioned in his book. I read his book. I didn't remember seeing anything about.
Well, they adored him by all accounts. I mean,
I'm sure he, English gentleman type of guy. It seemed,
Yeah, they said he was
jazzer, really. Less than a rock, more of a jazz guy than a rock.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But man, he brought it. And one of the beautiful things about Jack Bruce's bass playing when I was learning was I learned improv. Because we would I remember doing these like party gigs, like the fraternity party, and we would do Spoonful for 20 minutes. And that was just us just going off, feeling the music. It wasn't like notes on a paper. And it was just from inside. You just felt it,
Well, actually, that sort of leads to a question I have as a non-musician again. So someone writes a song, or you write a song, and you mentioned you write it with the bass, but the bass isn't known as melodies, right? Can you do a melody?
I wrote one instrumental with bass playing chords actually on the bass, and then another bass part, and multi-tracked, and then I had a guitar player put some Jeff Beck style guitar parts over it. But I sit down with a guitar, start strumming, and I start singing ideas and coming up with parts and then lyrics.
And does the bass line come in afterwards? Like the song's written and then it's like?
Usually, it is developed afterwards. And a lot of times it's developed after I come up with the kind of groove I want in the drums. But my bass parts are built off of the vocal melody, the actual chord structure, and what the guitar parts are, and really around what the drum pattern is, the bass drum pattern and the drum fills. And it's really important that you have the vocal melody to work with so that you enhance passages that they do. And I've had to do records where I had no idea what the vocals were going to be. And it really is limiting. You just kind of have to play it safe the whole time. You can't really be as expressive as you would like to be. Like Pino Palladino is one of my favorite expressive bass players. You've heard him with Don Henley and Paul Young. And Sunset Grill, listen to the bass on that. It's just, and I did read that both he and Paul McCartney do their bass last. They'll do like a scratchy, like a scratch part. And then after all the parts are built, then they do the final bass part.
So you're responding to what's already laid down. I mean, you're kind of adding to it.
I really think to paint the right picture, you need to have all the colors,
Yeah.
And that's the way I've always liked to do it. And like I said, I've had to do records before without that, which, you just make the best of it.
Yeah. So you read in your bio that you've been involved in 7 film scores. How'd you get involved in those?
Well, that was a period of time where I was working with Matt Sorum, who you know probably from Guns N' Roses and The Cult, and Lanny Cordola, who was my partner played with me in House of Lords, but we also have done a lot of other projects and albums together, mainly in the 90s. I think we had a project called Magdalene, it has a couple records, and we have a project called Odd Man Out that has a couple albums out. But they started doing film scores, and they got me involved in that with them. and it was a whole different process. And one of them, we had Slash and some of those guys involved in it, and we went to the Sundance Film Festival and performed music from the actual movie. And one of the fun stories from that is Slash plays the opening riff to, he goes, and the crowd goes crazy. He walks up to the mic and he goes, "Not gonna happen." And yeah, but doing film scores is it's a different animal. I mean, you have a lot to choose from stylistically, but you want to keep a kind of a thematic feel to everything.
Is it song? You doing sound design, or is it both? Combination of both?
Combination of both. And it also depends on the kind of film. If you want to go for a David Lynchian kind of vibe, you know, or dark, evil, whatever throughout, the kind of, because the story has that underlying character to it, you know. It depends on what's there. But one of the things also is sometimes a film will have multiple film producers on it, and trying to please all those guys is not easy. You know, to make everybody happy. One guy wants a Latin song and one guy wants a jazz song. You know, you kind of have to find what's going to work best for it.
So off topic of it, what's your review of the McCartney tour? You saw a concert.
I did. I went. You know what? It's been on my bucket list. I never thought I'd ever see him because the ticket prices are astronomical. And unfortunately, I was able to get hooked up for the show through my girlfriend. Actually, she knows a bunch of the people on the crew and in the band. So I just was. I can't believe, first of all, that he can go for 3 hours at 79 years old.
Jeez.
And the amount of songs that he plays that are, you know, either in your, you know, they're part of your DNA, really.
Sure.
I mean, I grew up, I remember seeing the Beatles' first show on Ed Sullivan. I remember all of it. And I grew up with that, and probably, you know, one of the biggest influences, I think, on pretty much everybody is the Beatles.
Of course.
In fact, we're doing at Ultimate Jam Night next week, we're doing a Britain rock show. So it's just British acts. It's going to be part one because there's so many great British acts, but we're going to start with Beatles because that's started it, really, the British invasion.
I guess the real, actually the Beatles were on another show before. Nobody knows this. Makes you know this.
But
they were on the Jack Parr show before they were on.
Oh, Jack Parr, right.
The Jack Parr show. That's right. Jack Parr became Johnny Carson, right?
Yeah.
So he used to make home movies and travel, and he says, I went to England and I saw this band, and he played it, and I remember seeing it, and he's going like, they're very different, because the only thing that we had before that was, you know, the Beach Boys and Elvis and stuff.
Right.
And I remember seeing it seeing like, God, that's really different, you know, special, you know.
Very, very cool. And I hold them responsible for the whole hard rock thing with Helter Skelter, because that song was, I think it's the first heavy rock tune ever recorded.
That's interesting. You're right. Because Beatles aren't known. That's really one of their.
So aggressive. They're screaming there. It's like, it's like, talk about aggressive. I mean, it's crazy.
That's almost scary. Well, Manson, it's so scary because Manson adopted it as his theme song. Yeah. I
don't want to go there, but I know that whole, my stepfather was a newsman, and he was the first guy allowed into that scene.
Oh, really?
Oh, terrible. Yeah.
So when in the beginning, you were in Quiet Riot and you left, did you just wanted to do something different, or is there some riff you've had with them, like, you know, fight? Well,
the thing with that band is that I've been in and out of it, I think 4 or 5 times throughout my career since, I started playing which became the Mental Health record. It was called Dubrow, and we demoed the songs, and a lot of those demos became the actual album because it was life changing if it's not broken, right? So that's how I became the bass player in Bang Your Head and Don't Want to Let You Go, and I sing on every track on the Mental Health record, which is the first. They call it metal. I think of it just as hard rock, but the first metal record to go #1.
That's what they said. Yeah,
and it did change the whole fabric of the music scene totally. It was all new wave bands. And that with little ties, you know, and then all of a sudden it became all the hair bands, and it kind of blew open the doors for everybody else. Come On Feel the Noise, that song. But yeah, it's been an in and out kind of thing, and it's a lot of times it's Rudy coming back, and this time it's the same thing. I'm just stepping aside. He's coming back to the band, and this it's good because I'm doing my solo project right now, and I've always got a lot going on, sessions or whatnot. I'm always a busy camper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, a more trivial question: the hats behind you, is that just people give you hats as gifts? You collect hats, or you're at the hat tree?
I'm a total haberdashery fan. Total fanatic. I mean, I've got so many different hats.
Yeah.
I've always liked it. In fact, I posted with that Jack Bruce on Facebook with the Jack Bruce thing. I talked about the EB3 bass. I posted the only picture I could find of me playing one when I was 15. Sure enough, I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah.
And I guess from military school, you have to wear hats all the time, right?
Sure.
So I'm just that's a thing. I've been a hat guy, and you could totally change your whole look with a hat.
Sure. Yeah.
Even like a fedora, if you wear it down, you look like really serious, and if you pull it up, you look like a goofball.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like whatever.
But the brim goes, yeah.
If you put the brim up, all of a sudden you're a goof.
Or one of the dead end kids or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
Something from Mayberry, like one of those.
Your Kid Rock,
Yeah. I heard Slash tell a story where his hat, the mythology of his, and he stole it from a thrift shop. He was apparently, that's what he said. He was in a thrift shop one day, and somebody said, you ought to wear a hat, or he was going somewhere where he needed a hat, and he walked into a thrift store and he saw this hat and it was too expensive and he stole it. So.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I remember those guys before, they got signed, and Axl Rose, I was at the Cat Club, and he was in the men's bathroom just hanging out, telling every guy that walked in there about his new band.
Oh, really?
And I go, wow, this guy's kind of smart. He knows everybody's going to be going. It's weird, but everybody's going to be going in there eventually, right?
Right.
That's interesting. That's where every publisher should hang out, in the men's room. If they don't already.
You want to promote, go,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a little story about those. I actually worked with just about everybody in Guns N' Roses throughout my career, both Matt Sorum, and I toured with Steven Adler, as well.
Yeah.
And, it's been, and Teddy Zigzag and Gilby Clarke. Those are all guys I've worked with. Teddy was in Alice Cooper with me, and I did his solo record, which is really outstanding, by the way.
So let's plug your record again, Sheltering Sky.
Yes.
People can find it on Apple Music and...
there it is. Good. Chuck Wright, Sheltering Sky. On Cleopatra Records. Wow, nice album cover. Who did the art?
Actually, the album was, you probably don't know, but I have been a graphic designer. I worked for 3 labels at one time doing CD packages. Oh. But when the best guy in the business is your best friend, and named Glenn Wexler, who's done Rush and Black Sabbath and Van Halen 2 covers and on and on and on, he goes, hey, do you want me to do your cover for you? I'm going to go, yes, sir, please. And he listened to the album, and he got the whole, basically it's like, even though everything's desolation, it's the vulture represents basically death, but it's actually lifting up and rising. So it's hope.
It's like a phoenix too.
In the background. It's like the phoenix, but it's a pretty cool image. And he's been my best friend since the late 70s. We're like brothers, really. So when he said, hey, I'll do it, I go, great. I couldn't decide. I had like 10 different ideas developed that I did myself over the months, I'll do. And but he just said he'd come on board, and I go, you got it. Go for it.
Oh, that's nice.
Anyway, Sheltering Sky is the name of the project, and check out the Throwing Stones video and Army of Me video if you can, people.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, thanks for
And I remember Frog's Place, New Haven. You guys are in Connecticut, right?
Toad's Place.
Toad's Place, that's it. Toad's Place.
Yeah.
I knew it had a frog in it.
Yeah, there's lots of.
I just remember that club so well. So going down to the basement.
And when is that again? When are you going to be at Toad's Place?
Oh, I'm not. I'm just saying you guys are from Connecticut.
Oh, yeah.
When I think of New Haven, and then I think of Toad's Place.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, nice meeting you guys.
Yep, same here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you.